When I first got to this property, there was nothing here. My boss at the time hired carpenters, and they taught us how to build, and we built this, which you're about to receive a tour of. Over here is our chicken coop. We've got 15 hens, and they give us 15 eggs every day, which is quite nice. Let's see if we have anything. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful. It's kind of actually cool how this works. It's an automated chicken coop. Up in the hillside, you can see there's a blue barrel, and that blue barrel has a toilet flusher mechanism inside. So when the water drops to a certain point, it fills back up, just like a toilet does when you flush it. And that water feeds by gravity into this little device, which has these little water nipples, they're called, or something like that, that the chickens can just go up to and peck, and they get water, and it constantly refills itself. Over here is our rabbit cage. This is Hef, jumpy little boy. This is Ivanka. Yeah. This is Cassini. This is Phobos. They're our breeders. They're pretty great. They're super cute. And I'm happy that they're the breeders and not the babies. We eat the babies. Farming's kind of brutal, but that's just how life is. So we don't put a penny into these guys. We pick weeds off the side of the road, and that's all they eat every day. And when they poop, the poop goes down into these bins. We put the leftover vines in there and trash bags to bring off the property. When these bins fill up, we compost it. We muck out the chicken coop. Starts as just a bed of wood chips, and then over time those wood chips decompose with the poop that the chickens are putting onto it into essentially nitrogen. So we muck out the chicken coop, and we put our bins into a big pile, put on more wood chips, and after about 3 months we've got usable compost that we can put on our crops, our soil crops. So over here is our hatchery, which is missing the wall. We've just taken that off to do some repairs. This is where we hatch all of our fish. I guess this is really where the aquaponics all starts on this property. So as we walk in, we'll start with the fish. Over here we've got about 2,700 baby rainbow trout. And they look hungry. So we every 2 months we get 4,000 trout eggs, which we hatch in here. I don't know how clear that's coming up, but not very, I guess. Anyway, there's about 4,000 fish in here, and 8 weeks later, these fish grow out to the other fish you just saw. And then 2 months after being in this tank, we grade them by size, and we move the big ones into this tank, and we leave them there for a few weeks, and we're doing some repairs on this now. When we're ready to transfer them to the main system, we pull the drain, and we hook up a pipe to the outside here, and we swim our fish all the way over to our main aquaponics system, which is right over here. This is we just barely finished building the last 7 grow beds, totaling 14. So where we grow our watercress. So our 2 main crops are rainbow trout and watercress, and then we have some soil crops on the side that we do as well. So every part of this system is connected. We recycle 97% of our water and replace 3% every day. Now how that works, or how that looks, I guess, is the water is constantly being drained out the center drain, which looks like that. It goes through a 4-inch pipe which is underground, and that 4-inch pipe comes up, elbows over, and that sets the height of the water in the tank. Water seeks its own level, so we use that to our advantage here. This is an anti-siphon valve right there. We don't want to drain our tanks. So the water comes up, across, drops down, goes into a cyclonic settler. It's this rocket ship looking thing. What that is it's essentially water gets shot in from the bottom and it comes out the top. And this creates a rotation, vortex. So all the heavy solids go to the bottom and sit there until we drain them out. And the rest of the water goes out the top into our biofilter. This is a really crucial part of aquaponics, of the system. Fish excrete ammonia out of their gills, and fish in a closed system create nitrite and ammonia. And those two things will kill fish very quickly. So what this biofilter does is it's getting pumped full of air. It has the same airline as the tanks have. It comes over here and it feeds this hoverboard looking thing. I'll try to include some pictures, which is in the bottom. And the water has thousands of these tiny little, they're called bioballs. They look like little gears, little gears, like a bicycle gear. And they're constantly spinning and self-cleaning and rotating and being aerated, and it's essentially substrate for naturally occurring bacteria to hang on to. And that naturally occurring bacteria converts the nitrite into nitrate, which is plant food. And now that plant food and that water goes through this 6-inch drain, down, across, connects into a 12-inch line. This is all flowing by gravity. That 12-inch line goes all the way across, goes across the road, all the way along the beds, and it comes up on the other side in a 2-inch inlet. And it's seeking its own level, so it's shooting out of that 2-inch inlet. It wants to be at the same height we're at here. And each of these beds has a 3/4 inch drop from one end to the next. They're 75 feet long. So water flows from one end to the next, goes at a 3-inch outlet, which you can kind of see down here. And each of those outlets connects to a 6-inch line, which continues to flow by gravity down to our sump house. Sump house is just it's our sump tank. It's just a tank that holds water. It's our return tank, essentially. This is kind of cool. We built these little screen filters. So yeah, the water goes from the grow beds, goes through this 6-inch line, tees off into 2 separate tees, and flows over these screens. These were just planter troughs that we fiberglassed together. And how it works is, from the grow beds we'll have particulates from the watercress coming down, and we don't want that in our system. We don't want that going back up to the fish. So any particulate that gets into the grow bed system comes through the pipe and it lands onto this screen filter, and the water passes through. I think it's 100 microns, so water passes through and all the heavy particulates go into the side. And this is just a piece of pipe we cut in half, and it's plumbed over to the other side. And whenever that fills up, once a week, once a day, we don't really know yet, we pull this valve right here, and it flushes out all of the watercress bits and any particulate that gets in the system. And we can compost that or feed it to our chickens as we like. So this is the last part of the system before it all gets brought back up to the fish. So all the water that's in those fish tanks is constantly being moved throughout the system. Everything, like I said before, is connected, and it all leads here. And this tank, the water comes out of the bottom, goes into this one pump, gets shot up this pipe all the way across, and back up to the fish tanks. And it does that 24 hours a day, every day. And that's it. That's the system. So one cool thing that we're doing to make our lives easier, harvesting watercress isn't fun. It takes a long time. It's hard on the hands, and no one really wants to do it. I mean, it would take John and I to harvest one of these beds the whole afternoon, probably 4 to 5, possibly 6 hours. So what we did was we had a custom built watercress harvester made in New Zealand. This thing's pretty cool. So when we're ready to harvest the watercress, we got a coffee cup down here. This harvester has wheels, and these wheels have a gap for something to fit in between, and that something are these rails. So when we're ready to harvest watercress, we plop this machine on top, and we start it up. It's kind of a combination of a lawnmower and a leaf blower put together. So how it works is, you see these little fingers, we push the harvester across the bed, and these fingers comb the watercress in between them, and they're hollow. And it's constantly blowing air out of these fingers. And there's a blade right here, it's got a cover on it, and that blade just goes back and forth really, really quick. So it's constantly cutting and blowing watercress into a giant collection bag on the back. It takes us about 2 minutes to push this thing across one of these beds. We haven't actually used it to harvest yet, but as we're still waiting for everything to kind of grow out. But we assume it'll probably take less than 5 minutes to harvest 300 pounds of watercress, which is pretty cool. So after 8 months, after the fish have gone from an egg to the point where we sell them, which is about 1 pound, it's time to harvest. And we do that different than any farm in the world that I know of, or that I could find online. We swim our fish, and it's the same concept as I kind of mentioned before with swimming the fish from the hatchery to one of these tanks when it's time to move them over. How we do this is, normally there's a drain cover inside this drain, and these drains are all custom made. They're beveled, and the way the bottom is, it's made so it's accessible for fish to go through. So when it's time to harvest, we drop the water about halfway, or rather we send it to another part of the system. Then we pull out the drain cover, and we open up this, I guess they're not really finished yet, but we open up the very end valve right here, and we have a 4-inch flexible pipe that extends over to these purge tanks, which have weeds growing out of them right now. We're still getting to that, but these tanks will be dug into the ground about halfway, and when it's time to harvest the fish, we drop the water halfway, we take off the drain cover, and the fish swim out of these pipes into these purge tanks, where they stay for about 3 days to clean out their bellies. They stay 3 days without food, and from there we do this very similar thing. We open the valve and we shoot them through pipes into the back of a truck, and then we drive them off to the restaurants. So it's minimal labor. that's our goal. Minimal labor, and it's much more humane. We're not netting the fish. So you can imagine 50 fish in one net, each fish 1 pound. That bottom fish is not having a good day. So our goal is to be as humane as possible and make our jobs as easy as possible. It took 2 years, but we started with a forest and we ended with something pretty spectacular. It's pretty incredible what a 70-year-old and a 24-year-old can do. I mean, sheer willpower and sheer work. We built everything on this farm, from the fish tanks to the drains to the drain covers to the grow beds to baffles to system designs to raising fish to hatching fish to everything. You know, it's been a journey, and that's life. And this is hard work, and they pay off. I'm Max Powell, and this is Kulahaven Farms.